Lamar is back, and so are the Ravens, but let's pump the brakes on them being a legitimate Super Bowl threat. I'm Doug Kezirian. This is Hard Pass, also available in podcast. It's a cliche, but it needs to be repeated, largely because people often get caught up in the moment and throw logic out the window and overlook this. Two seemingly contradictory things can both be right at the same time, and I believe that's what's getting overlooked with all this excitement surrounding the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, Lamar Jackson is back from injury to make Baltimore a much better team, and they probably will win the division, but that does not necessarily mean they're good enough to reach the Super Bowl. These are two separate things. So, can we please pump the brakes on anointing the Ravens as legitimate contenders? All this buzz obviously stems from their big win on Thursday Night Football. Lamar returned from a 3-game absence and looked great. 4 touchdown passes in a blowout win. But it came against the Miami Dolphins, a team that's been hugely disappointing and under-delivering, and kind of maybe just everyone's waiting for them to fire their coach. Plus, the Fins have a D ranked 4th worst in efficiency. Baltimore entered Week 9 with a 2-5 record and 3rd place in the AFC North. However, sportsbooks listed them as betting favorites at less than even money. That's because the first-place Pittsburgh Steelers, deeply flawed, and Cincy and Cleveland seem like a mess, although Joe Flacco has made things interesting in Cincy. But the key is, Lamar is Lamar.
Kansas City was 3-3. It's all good. Why? Mahomes. Buffalo, 2-game losing streak. It's all good. Why? Josh Allen. That's the great thing about having a star quarterback, is you always have a way to very quickly dig yourself out of a hole.
Following Thursday's win in Miami, the Ravens are now minus 180 to win the AFC North, largely because their remaining schedule looks like a cakewalk. They'll likely be favored in 8 of their final 9 games, given only the Steelers, Packers, and Patriots on that list currently have winning records. Right now, Baltimore's adjusted win total is 9.5. So at 3-5, right? The betting market says they're likely to finish 6-3 or 7-2 in those remaining games. I actually think they're going to be 7-2 or better. But that's not because all of a sudden I think the Ravens are elite. It's just that's what I think of their remaining strength of schedule. And they've already faced their toughest opponents coming into the year. Against that competition, 0-3. Have we forgotten they got smoked in Kansas City or manhandled at home on Monday night by the Detroit Lions? All when Lamar Jackson was healthy and still playing QB. They dominated the Bills for the most part, but the defense caved. But all they needed to win the game was convert a 4th and 3. Instead, John Harbaugh decides to punt to Josh Allen. Shockingly, that did not work out well for the Ravens. And all those came in the regular season when Baltimore typically plays well. The playoffs are when they collapse. Can you believe they only have 3 total playoff wins in the Lamar Jackson era? 7 years. He overall combined 3-6 postseason record. In the 2 years that he was MVP, they went a combined 1-2 in the playoffs. Now, not all of it is on Lamar. I hate quarterback records, but it matters. But I like him. He's a human cheat code, but the team is incredibly unreliable, particularly John Harbaugh. And that's after they failed in numerous postseasons when they had really good teams coming into this. So now that they beat the pathetic Dolphins to improve to 3-5, I'm supposed to think they're a threat in the AFC once they limp into the playoffs and don't even have home field advantage? They're actually tied right now as the 4th favorite to win the AFC. How is that even possible? The betting market says they have the same odds to reach the Super Bowl as the Denver Broncos. Plus, the market is saying the Ravens have a better chance to win the AFC than both the Patriots and Chargers. Now, I understand it's about the path to the Super Bowl, and Baltimore has an easier division. But still, with that being said, now it's time for me to talk on the other side of my mouth and play devil's advocate. Just because Lamar hasn't reached the Super Bowl yet doesn't mean he can't. I get that. After all, everyone mocked Phil Mickelson over the years because he was always the bridesmaid, right? But he did get over the hump at the Masters in 2004 and then went on to win a bunch of other majors. Everyone criticized Tony Bennett and Virginia, mocking their defense and can't score, especially when they lost to a 16 seed in the first round. But then the Cavaliers went on to win it all. It's obviously possible that Lamar and the Ravens do prevail, but I just highly doubt it's this particular year. Not with that defense. As they say in the dating world, protect your peace. So don't get fooled by Baltimore again. Time now for Fans in the Stands, and this is when I get to respond to a couple comments in our most recent episode, and it's a chance to respond to anything, right? You guys can comment what you like, what you dislike, anything, random questions. Doesn't just have to be about the most recent episode. Of course, that makes the most sense. And please like and subscribe the show. It really, really helps us with the analytics. That is the YouTube currency nowadays. So it really, really helps. So we appreciate if you take the time and make that effort. First question or comment from Ryan Huffman, 7410. No disrespect, Doug, but the Wemby might be the best ever talk that has been talked about since his rookie year is overblown, in my opinion. Tony Brothers was officiating that Mavs game. There were a lot of ticky-tack calls in that game that basically prevented the Mavs from even attempting to play defense against him. Nearly every single Mav had 3 to 4 fouls and had to sit for a good part of the first half already, having that many fouls. Great, undeniable. Already talking about him as the possible GOAT ahead of Jordan. The one full year Wemby played, he averaged 21, 10, and 4 with 3.6 blocks per game and hasn't accomplished anything in the postseason. All factual. I think the reason others are saying, and at least I am, is projecting, right? He's just 21 years old, and he is legit dominating in his first handful of games this season. What he did in the offseason, committing himself off the blood clot situation. If you project and his defensive numbers, what he does, and the fact that he's 7'5", right? And he can stretch the defense on the other end, I don't see how he's stopped. Now, the Spurs are undefeated now. He's doing a little bit of everything. He can go 20-20 games. He can have 5-block games, 10-block games. He can do whatever it takes. And the right coaching is structuring the defense around him. And he completely changes the game. Now, obviously, he's got a long ways to go. And this is the fun part about sports, is where you project someone's aptitude and growth and success. But if he's this at 21, he's a freak, right? 7'5", can shoot threes, can handles everything. There's really no telling. So obviously Jordan's special and LeBron's longevity is special as well. But there's something to be said about what he's doing right now and able to project it down the road. Sean Scott says, no chance, Doug. Here's why. While he will be considered one of the best ever, he's too tall to be the GOAT. He was born with too big of an advantage. It's an interesting way of looking at it. I had never thought that was part of it. I don't think Jordan's hang time and airness was ever held against him, or the fact that LeBron is built like a cyborg was ever held against him. It's just who was the greatest of all time. And I think anyone in that discussion is born with something, right? Kareem, if you count high school and college, even belongs in the convo, and he's 7 feet tall. It's an interesting angle. Hadn't thought of it, but maybe when you're splitting hairs down the road, some people think it's unfair. I ultimately think the deciding factor will be if he wins gold, maybe multiple golds with Team France against Team USA in the Olympics, because Team France has been to the medal round. So this isn't a bunch of randoms, and Wemby, they're right there. So it would be certainly impressive and maybe the difference maker down the road. But hey, I'm not privy to every single conversation in this world. So if people think the God-given, height at birth is going to be held against him, then so be it. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Hard Pass. We always appreciate you getting involved in the conversation. Join the conversation, if you'd like to say. Let us know your thoughts across the board, and we will respond to some comments on the next episode.